of the United States, accompanied by Secretary of Veterans Affairs Dennis McDonough and Danielle and Brielle Robinson.
Good morning. Good morning. It's an honor to be here with so many veterans, their families, survivors, and of course, the President. This is a monumental moment. It's our job as a nation to provide toxic exposed veterans and their survivors with the care and benefits they deserve. But for too long, that did not happen. For too long, too many veterans who got sick while fighting for our country had to fight for their care here at home. But from the day he took office, President Biden has made it clear that those days are over. He became the first president to proactively deliver toxic exposure benefits and care for the veterans who fought for our wars for the past 30 years, establishing presumptions of service connection for asthma, sinusitis, rhinitis, and 9 rare respiratory cancers. And now, by signing the PACT Act into law, President Biden will empower VA to deliver the care that millions of toxic exposed veterans need and the benefits that they and their loved ones deserve. And VA stands ready to implement PACT now. Veterans can visit va.gov/PACT to learn more about how this law will help them and their families, and we encourage anyone who might be eligible for PACT Act benefits to apply right away, because we'll stop at nothing to make sure every veteran, every family member, and every survivor gets everything they've earned and they deserve. Now, there are so many people to thank for making this day possible, including, of course, the President, who has made this the top priority in his unity agenda, and our leaders in Congress who came together to get this done, and of course the veterans who have advocated for this legislation for years, and their family members and survivors who have served and sacrificed right alongside the veterans they love. In fact, it's my great honor to introduce 2 of these family members as our next speakers, Danielle and Brielle Robinson. As so many of you know, Danielle and Brielle are the surviving wife and daughter of Sergeant First Class Heath Robinson, the hero for whom the PACT Act is named. And they're joined today by Danielle's mother and Brielle's grandmother, Susan Zier. Danielle and Brielle are not only the survivors of an American hero. No, they are very much heroes themselves for holding our country and VA accountable, for advocating for this legislation, knowing full well that it can't bring back what they've lost, and for making this day possible so other families won't have to suffer the loss that they have suffered. Danielle, Brielle, thank you for everything. Over to you.
As a military spouse, when your loved one returns home safely from a deployment, you count your blessings. You're filled with gratitude, fear turns to relief as you begin living as a family again. But 10 years post-deployment from Iraq, my husband Heath began the biggest battle of his life, a terminal stage 4 lung cancer diagnosis due to toxic exposure from a burn pit in Baghdad. A word that became the biggest nightmare of our lives. We quickly learned about warriors who battled their own burn pit illnesses before Heath, and the warriors who were still fighting for their lives alongside him. Today, I want to remember Heath for the man he was, an immediate friend to everyone who crossed his path, the person who would instantly drop what he was doing to help a friend or a stranger on the street, the guy in the room who had a special glow and warmth to him, a soldier as strong as an ox, physically and mentally, the ultimate cuddler and protector to our sweet little girl, Brielle, and a leader with a strong warrior ethos to all those who served under him. I'd like to thank every member of Congress who supported and voted for the PACT Act, all the veterans organizations who helped raise our voices on Capitol Hill, and all the advocates like John Fiel and John Stewart for your support. We could not have done this without you all. Ours is just one story. So many military families have had to fight this terrible emotional battle. So many veterans are still battling burn pit illnesses today. Too many have succumbed to those illnesses as well. And I'm honored to be with the father of another military family that understands the ultimate sacrifice like we do, our Commander-in-Chief, President Joe Biden.
Please have a seat. Danielle, thank you. Before I begin today, I want to say a word about the news that came out today relative to the economy. Actually, I just want to say a number, 0. Today, we received news that our economy had 0% inflation in the month of July. 0%. Here's what that means. While the price of some things went up last month, the price of other things went down by the same amount. The result, 0 inflation last month, but people were still hurting, but 0 inflation last month. Economists look at a measure of inflation that ignores food and energy prices, and they call it core inflation. That's about the lowest amount in several years, several months. When you couple that with last week's booming jobs report of 528,000 jobs created last month and 3.5% unemployment, it underscores the kind of economy we've been building. We're seeing a stronger labor market where jobs are booming and Americans are working, and we're seeing some signs that inflation may be beginning to moderate. That's what happens when you build an economy from the bottom up and the middle out. The wealthy do very well and everyone has a chance. It gives everyone a chance to make progress. Now I want to be clear. With the global challenges we face, from the war in Europe to disruption of supply chains and pandemic shutdowns in Asia, we could face additional headwinds in the months ahead. Our work is far from over, but 2 things should be clear. First, the economic plan is working, and second is building an economy that will reward work. Wages are up this month, provide opportunity, help the middle class, and still have work to do, but we're on track. The second point I want to make is we need to pass the Inflation Reduction Act right away. That's the most consequential thing that Congress can do to keep our progress on inflation from getting better, from getting worse, keep it moving in the right direction. And it will bring down the cost of prescription drugs, health insurance premiums, and energy costs. It's going to make big corporations just pay their fair share nothing more than their fair share. It's going to reduce the deficit without raising a penny in taxes on people making under $400,000 a year. But it's far from done in our effort to bring inflation down, but we're moving in the right direction. So some good economic news today and some work ahead. Now, to the reason we're here, and the most important reason that we've assembled in this room in a long time. Danielle, when you were here for the State of the Union, I had hoped you'd be back to sign this for this bill signing. It turns out that's working. And Mom, I remember how strongly supportive you were of this from the very beginning, all the way back when I met you at a book signing a long time ago. And I'm just in awe of your family's courage. I really mean that. You know, through the pain, you found purpose to demand that we do better as a nation. And today we are. Brielle, you know, I know you miss your daddy, but he's with you all the time. He's inside you. He's going to whisper in your ear lots of times when you have hard decisions to make. You're going to wonder what Daddy wants you to do, and he's going to be there. He's going to be there for you. You see that little guy you're sitting right next to? That's my grandson. His daddy lost to the same burn pits, and he knows what you're going through. But guess what? You're going to do this. You're going to be really, really strong. And it's hard taking care of Mommy and a grandma, but you got to do it, okay? All right. To the veterans and their families here today and for all around the country, we can never fully thank you for your service and your sacrifice. And that's not hyperbole, that's a literal fact. Less than 1% of you, risk everything to defend 99% of the population. 1% risk 99%. We owe you. You're the backbone, you're the steel, you're the sinew, you're the very fiber that makes this country what it is. And that's not hyperbole, that's a fact. As a nation, we have many obligations. I've been saying this for a long, long time. We have many obligations, only one truly sacred obligation: to equip those we send into harm's way and to care for them and their families when they come home. We have a lot of obligations, but that's a truly sacred obligation we have. Today, we're one step closer to fulfilling that sacred obligation with the bill I'm about to sign into law. This is the most significant law our nation has ever passed to help millions of veterans who are exposed to toxic substances during their military services. You know, Secretary McDonough can tell you, I was going to get this done come hell or high water. This was something, the first thing, when a lot of staff knows that's true. As part of my agenda that I announced in the State of the Union address, I announced 4 things that all Americans could agree on. One was beating the opioid epidemic. 2 was tackling the mental health crisis we face as a nation as a consequence of the pandemic. 3 was ending cancer as we know it, which we're going to do and come hell or high water again. And 3, supporting our veterans. Big issues that unite us. We're always being told that Democrats and Republicans can't work together. When I ran, I said one of the reasons I was running, one of the 3 reasons was to unite the country, and I was roundly criticized for being naive. That was the old days, Joe. You used to be able to do that. Well, guess what? I don't believe it. We never have failed to. There are a lot of issues we can disagree on, but there are issues we can work together on. And this is one of those issues. So many of you here today remind us that we have fought for this for so many years. Veterans, surviving families, surviving family members, advocates like Rosie Torres and John Stewart. And John, I want to thank you again. I wanted to come up and hang out in the Capitol steps. The Secret Service said I'd be a pain in the neck. They wouldn't let me do it. So at least we did a little video on there. But what you've done, John, matters. And you know it does. You should know. It really, really matters. You refuse to let anybody forget. Refuse to let them forget. And we owe you big, man. We owe you big. And all the rest of you, you never gave up the fight. You never quit. You didn't stop, no matter what you were told. Think about it. Think about how distant this looked 5 years ago, 7 years ago. I also want to thank Senators Tester and Jerry Morgan. By the way, if you're in a foxhole, you want someone with you, you want Tester in that hole with you. Where are you, John? Is John here? Only problem is John may try to bring his combine in that foxhole with him. Also, John Bozeman and Kristen Gillibrand and Dick Blumenthal, Representatives Takano and Bost, and all the other members of Congress who supported this bill, many of whom are here today. I'd like you all to stand, all the members of Congress, please stand. You know, we learned a horrible lesson in Vietnam in which many of you fought. After Vietnam, how harmful effects to exposure of Agent Orange took years to manifest itself in their veterans, leaving too many veterans unable to access the care they needed and deserved. That's why back in 1991, I, along with others, co-sponsored the Agent Orange Act, supporting veterans exposed to toxic substances in Vietnam. That laid the groundwork for how the VA addresses environmental exposure and the bill that I'm about to sign. You know, veterans of the wars of Iraq and Afghanistan not only faced dangers in battle, they were breathing toxic smoke from burn pits. Because I was vice president and the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee before that, I was in and out of Iraq over 20 times, and Fort Bonneville, and all those places, and you could actually see some of it in the air. Burn pits the size of football fields that incinerated wastes of war, such as tires, poisonous chemicals, jet fuel, and so much more I won't even mention. And a lot of the hooches, a lot of the places where our soldiers were sleeping were literally a quarter mile, half mile away from it, and where they ate their chow. I mean, it was there all the time. And toxic smoke, thick with poison, spreading through the air and into the lungs of our troops. When they came home, many of the fittest and best warriors that we sent to war were not the same. Headaches, numbness, dizziness, cancer. My son Bo was one of them. Bo's son Hunter is here today, as I mentioned earlier, and his father-in-law and a good friend of mine going all the way back to high school, Ronnie Olivier, along with General Frank Vavala, who was the commander of the National Guard when Bo was there. And I want to thank them for being here as well. To us and to many of you in the room, if not all of you, it's personal for so many people like Danielle and Brielle. Sergeant First Class Heath Robinson, just 39 years old. 39 years old. And they held his hand for the last time at age 39. The PACT Act is the least we can do for the countless men and women, many of whom may be in this room, for all I know, who suffered toxic exposure while serving their country. The law expands access to health care and disability benefits for veterans harmed by toxic exposure. It empowers the Department of Veterans Affairs to move quickly to determine service members' illness and related military service to see if they qualify. And for families of veterans who died from toxic exposure, it means a monthly stipend of $2,000 a month for a surviving spouse with 2 children. It means access to life insurance, home loan insurance, tuition benefits, and help with health care. It means new facilities, improved care, more research, and increased hiring and retention of healthcare workers treating veterans. This new law matters. It matters a lot. It matters a great deal because these conditions have already taken such a toll on so many veterans and their families. I've directed the Department of Veterans Affairs to treat all 23 presumptive conditions as in this law as applicable the moment I sign this bill. I'm urging the veterans of those decades of war to promptly file for your claims. The VA will move as quickly as possible to resolve your claim and get you the benefits and the care you've earned. And now I want every member, every service member, every veteran, every family member to know how to access the law. Just go to va.gov/PACT, va.gov/PACT. File their claim and apply for your VA health care now. Or go to your local VA hospital, or reach out to the veteran service organizations, many of whom made this happen as well, from Disabled American Veterans to the American Legion to Veterans of Foreign War. And if you need additional assistance, just call. And this law becomes on top of my administration's efforts to pioneer ways to link toxic exposure to diseases and help more veterans get the care they need. We're building a more comprehensive database for the Department of Defense and Veterans Affairs to track and assess exposures. Expand the eligibility for veterans suffering from the 3 respiratory conditions and 9 rare respiratory cancers. Earlier this summer, I signed 9 veterans bills into law that will do everything from providing mammograms and screenings for veterans who served near burn pits to compensating veterans who developed cancer and medical conditions from our World War II nuclear program. We're not stopping just here. Secretary McDonough and the Department of Veterans Affairs are part of my Cancer Moonshot initiative to end cancer as we know it. And today, I'm proud to name Dr. Monica get it right, Doc. Bettignoli. I better get it right because I married Dominic Giacoppa's daughter, so I got a problem, okay? But she's a leading cancer surgeon from a family of generations of veterans and is my new director of the National Cancer Institute. Please stand, Doc. And they're all working as one team. We may be in separate departments, but it's one team. And perhaps one of the most important things we're doing is working to bring down the rate of suicide among service members and veterans. An average of 17 veterans die by suicide every single day. 17. It's an absolute tragedy. It demands not only a whole of government approach, but a whole of country working together. So let me close with this. As Commander-in-Chief, I've always have your back, I promise you. That includes finally delivering justice to Zawahiri, al-Qaeda's leader and bin Laden's deputy during 9/11, and it includes always fighting for the care and benefits you've more than earned and more than deserved. This law is long overdue, but we finally got it done together. And I don't want to hear the press tell me Democrats and Republicans can't work together. We got it done, and we got it done together. So God bless you all. You are the backbone, the very spine of this country. And may God protect our troops. Now I'm going to walk over and sign that legislation. That's okay. All right.